We started something corporate in high school.
Okay.
Like Andrew and I had Spanish class together.
You're like, hola. He's like,
Yeah. Hola, want to do Battle of the Bands?
yeah. Well, good morning, Brian.
Yeah, good morning, Joe.
So let's talk about your hair first. So I want to know what's working, what's not working. I've cut your hair one time prior.
Yep. And it was the last time.
The last time. Yes, this is what it grows out to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So what worked for you? What didn't work for you?
It was a great cut. And I tend to give a stylist and all that. So I don't need to look corporate. No pun intended with the something corporate thing.
Yes.
I'm going to be on stage the next month or so. Not too corporate, longer on top. It could be the same direction. You're an artist yourself.
People tell me that. Eventually I'll believe them at some point. So you're going to be on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And what changes would make you feel not as like, you live up, I know you don't live a life in a cubicle, right?
Yeah.
Saying this corporate idea.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So what would make you feel less corporate while being in something corporate?
Right.
Oh, play on words. This is going to be very confusing for somebody who doesn't know what something corporate is.
It's a total thing.
Yeah. All right. So what would it be for you? Like what change would you want to make?
Yeah. I mean, to me, longer on the top, shorter on the sides, that's like as far as I know what to do. But like to me, cooler tends to be longer, but you don't want to be in between. I suppose like shorter on the sides, longer on top is probably fine. If there's any fancy ideas, novel ideas, feel free to share. Otherwise, we can march down that path.
With that being said, you have a nice hairline. You don't have to worry about that, right?
I cheat.
You what?
I cheat.
You cheat?
Yeah, I take a pill for
it. You know what? I'm glad you said that because I actually would love to help normalize finasteride,
that's what I think.
Minoxidil, and graphene hair restoration. Like those are the three things that I would love to help normalize with my conversations with guys. And when I talk to women in the chair, and because it's a very normal thing for women to get Botox, and nobody complains about that. Nobody, like all of these.
Yeah, I'm not ashamed of it. I can tell you.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad. I just.
It wasn't thinning gracefully either. It's not like I had this defined hairline. It was just like, you can even see a little bit of it now, but luckily it comes to here.
Yeah.
But it's like, it just gets kind of frizzy and straggly.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't feel that someone would like me less or think less of me if I'm like, hey, I take a pill to keep my hair.
That's it. We're not friends.
Yeah. It's like, I'm fine with it.
I think it goes into like confidence.
Yeah. I mean, I confidently take finasteride for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know so many women who got breast augmentation for confidence.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If we don't go like, oh, how dare you?
Yeah, why did you?
Why? No, for sure. Oh, you feel better about yourself.
Fantastic. Yeah. Objectively, I look better because I'm not like straggly and it's, or maybe socially you could say I look better. It's like, I don't want my hair straggly and halfway back on my head. Actually, if we're normalizing,
let's normalize it
and educate a tad.
Coffee for AR things. I'm finished. So
great stuff. By the way,
drop those.
That's one of my favorite albums of all time.
Really?
Abbey Road, absolutely. I'm like big Beatles guy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This will be interesting later on.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know how simple it was, right? I think a lot of guys think it's very like, it might work. It might, but what do I actually have to do? For me, it's a pretty stark and simple thing.
Yeah.
To keep what you have, you take finasteride. If you want regrowth, then use like Rogaine or
Minoxidil.
Minoxidil.
Yeah, I think Rovion's the brand.
Yeah, exactly.
Minoxidil is the
the Costco version, which is what I use. It's like you'll keep it if you take the pill. If you want more, you may or may not get it, but use minoxidil. Oh yeah, and then if you want it back, you've got to transfer.
Yeah,
right. And it's and he does like Clooney and McConaughey.
Hey, allegedly, they may have had this.
Yeah, exactly, right? Well, but it's like they call him the guy. Now I've never met him. My friend finally met him. Yeah. He met him because he ended up marrying a famous woman who knew of the guy. Yeah, right. And then he went and saw the guy, and then he came back and he was like, "The pill keeps it.
Yep.
If you want more, you either need a transfer or you can cross your fingers and take minoxidil."
Yep.
And I was like, okay. And I immediately got on finasteride.
Yeah.
And then I used minoxidil. I did get regrowth. Fuck yeah. Awesome. And I'm happy with it. Also, last thing, I was taking 5 milligrams.
Yeah.
And then for 2 years at least. And then I had a doctor say, you only need 1, which they say fiddles with your sex drive.
Is a plastic surgeon. And they were starting to do the grafting or the neograft. It's the one where they take care evenly from all over.
Right.
So you don't have a scar.
Right.
And then they just replace it and bring it else.
Yeah.
And I asked her if her husband would sit down with me and go through a consultation if he had the time. It wasn't for me. I have not felt the need to seek out such things right now.
Sure.
But I wanted to know the process so I could help give an answer to my male clients.
Yeah.
Or even my female clients who feel that their hair has been thinning, which I've noticed more in the last 5 to 7 years. Women are getting more of the receding hairline. And I don't know why.
Interesting, yeah.
It's just, what's the word? Anecdotal observation. I've noticed this. I don't know why. I don't have an idea. I'm not going to speculate. But at least I could have a solution for that. What I got out of it was exactly what you're saying. The way he described it is finasteride helps this part. Minoxidil definitely helps the male pattern baldness. And if those two things don't work, he's like, then you see me.
Yeah.
And I was like, simple.
Yeah.
Easy to do.
Yeah. I didn't realize like how mathematical it could be.
Yeah. No, yeah.
It's like, that's what and I think the finasteride is like, it'll keep it. It's not like, like, as far as I know, I'm sure some people it works better than others, work so well on me. But at the same time, I think it's like, look, if you want to keep your hair, you got to take it. Absolutely. And it will likely work.
What age did you start taking finasteride?
Yeah, I think it's been since 2017. Okay. So it's been like 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah, probably about.
And you and I are the same age.
42.
I'll be 42.
Yep.
So that's around 35, 36.
Yep, exactly.
Which is the age the plastic surgeon said is when you can start seeing the signs and the trend of where the hair loss will go.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. So he said...
I surely did.
He said by 35, you'll know where your hairline will be probably in the next 10 years.
Interesting.
And so if you're having a hairline that maybe iconically you may think of somebody in their 50s, or early 30s or late 20s, he said that, you may have to go through several transfers by the time you get to 50 to maintain that same look.
Right, because it's going to keep...
You're going on an accelerated pace.
Right.
I was just curious when you said that, because I wanted to know if it coincided with what...
Yeah, I think I was 36 probably.
Mid-30s.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it got to the point where this was funny that it was all kind of new to me because my mother told me, "Oh, you guys will never have to worry about losing your hair." My dad died with a full head of hair, and then I started losing my hair. I was like, "Mom, what?" Yeah. You told me.
Yeah.
But no, it kind of was like, oh, damn, like I need to consider this if I want to do something about it. I need to do it. So I'm glad I did it when I did, because I hadn't lost so much that it was like, just like creeping back and was going to stop here.
Yeah.
I had lost enough that actually if it stopped there, I would have been kind of bummed, but I was lucky enough to get some regrowth.
No, your hairline's nice. It's good.
Oh, thanks.
I know gentlemen who are easily 10 years younger than you, and they're not as fortunate when it comes to the hairline or even the density to the crown. After the haircut.
Yeah.
So hairline's great. Do you blow dry your hair?
No.
Never.
No, pretty low maintenance. Two things. I do care how it looks.
Yes.
But it is pretty low maintenance the way that I treat it.
Since you're going to be on the road for the next month, you're going to be doing probably photos, it'll be publicity.
Yeah.
Would you, oh my God, it looks like an eyelash just like jabbing. I feel like it's playing like, oh, there you go. I could feel it poking like on the rim of my eyeball. And I was like, oh gosh, here comes hair javelin. Would you put more effort in if you know there's going to be cameras and publicity? So you may borrow a blow dryer and a brush to kind of like, because if you blow dry your hair and use a brush, your hair will look more fuller usually.
Yep.
And if you want to accentuate the length by stretching the little bit of the wave that you have in your hair,
right,
it will look even more exaggerated. Yeah. I understand, you've been lounging around, waiting to play all day. By the time you get on stage, you're going to be sweating anyways.
Yeah.
So it's going to kind of implode and collapse.
Yeah. I don't sweat much for what it's worth. It'll probably look similar to when I went on stage.
You're lucky. I know a lot of other drummers when they come off stage.
I know.
Throw them in the pool.
I know. And I'm a pretty active drummer. I just don't sweat a ton for whatever reason. I got off stage like Salt Lake City, 2004 probably.
Yeah.
And our manager had flown out to the show. We played hour and a half headliner set, sold out gig, probably, I don't know, 1,000. And when we get off stage, he's like, man, you guys did so good. He's like giving everybody a pat on the back, and he pats me on the back. He goes, how'd you change your shirt so fast? And I was like, I didn't change my shirt. I don't sweat that much. And he's like, you're like going crazy out there. And I'm like, dude, I don't know. Just naturally, like I don't sweat a lot.
And do you have like fans blowing on you? And maybe you have enough fans?
Yeah, I'm a fan. But like, no, like really, like it's just not in my DNA.
You're lucky because, we're here in Texas and it's hot as fuck.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm always lucky because it's good to sweat when it's hot. Granted, his nickname was Sweaty, so he was very cognizant of how much everyone sweat. But it's pretty.
He's like, I got to figure out how you don't do this thing that's happening. I'm going to keep this, nice and texture so that way
cool.
Towel dry it, put product in, not blow dry, and then you'll get some cool separation.
Yeah. Just take look like I'm in.
One thing I know is like, do you want to maybe take the edges right through here, like your sideburns, your neckline, to make it a little tighter, or do you want to make it a little shaggy? Yeah, no, that's good. I think that pulls it out of like, nerdy desk job guys. Yeah. Sometimes the ratios, the more extreme they become, I think obviously you get away from corporate 9 to 5 or kind of
look. Which I'm super down. And again, I don't have any like obligation. Yeah, serious job, but I can look however I want.
Even better. Cool. Well, let's do this.
Yeah, I'm always trying to walk that line of like, I have a serious job, but like I've still got it.
Still got it. That's why I became a hairdresser. I could just do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Oh, they're artistic.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough. Like even in like my post music career, professional career, I should say, for money, I haven't had any like obligation. It's not like I couldn't have facial hair or like I need to look like prim or proper. I've always had and I think I told you this, but I'm in like fashion merchandising, that type of thing.
It actually helps.
Like if I look cool, it's probably a positive.
Well, yeah, because the thing is, if you're trying to, most things in fashion and in advertising is you are buying the product, you're also buying culture.
Totally, yeah.
And so if the person, who's trying to, pitch you something or sell you something, it's like they came out of revenge.
Totally, yeah.
You're like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a positive if somebody looked at me and said, oh, that guy looks kind of cool.
Which is funny is because that whole nerd thing is what makes Rivers Cuomo cool.
Yeah.
It's like, I couldn't imagine him trying
with a cool guy haircut.
I don't even know if it would be a cool guy haircut. For me, like Rivers Cuomo is like, parted on the side, the big thick glasses, you know, a button up,
Yeah.
just shredding on his little Stratocaster, you know, totally not looking like he'd be in a rock band.
Yeah.
It's almost like he looked like he was like in the 50s doo-wop group.
Yeah, no doubt.
Brian Ireland, I have to ask, are you related to Kathy Ireland?
Not related.
Damn it, are you Irish?
Yes.
Ireland, and you are Irish.
And my full name is so Irish at Brian Patrick Ireland.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I have a friend, he is like, I don't know which generation of Irish, but
Yeah.
and it's like, you can't get more Irish than that, but your last name is Ireland. So I think you've topped him in those Irish names.
You'd be hard up to find a more Irish name than the one I have. And Irish pub bouncers love it. They're like, Brian Patrick Ireland, come on in. They're so happy with it.
When we went to Ireland, it's actually the first time I ever left the country. We went to Ireland for St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
So it was my buddy Brendan, myself, and our friend Ryan.
Yeah. And
we walked into this pub. The guy looked and goes, you're Irish. And points right to Brendan.
Oh, funny.
We're like, oh shit. And then we kept going to like the same pub throughout the week we were there. And he came up to us. He's like, well, we know he can drink because he's Irish. How are you keeping up with him? We're like, and funny enough is Ryan and I both have the same shared heritage, which are Scandinavian and German, right?
Okay.
So you have Germans known for Oktoberfest, and then you have Viking heritage, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, Vikings and Germans. He goes, I'm give it a pass. Our Vikings used to invade Ireland.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, we're bored.
Yeah.
You want to go across the water? Yes, let's do it. I know what we're doing. I got my marching orders. So we're going to keep the sides short, but texture. Leave this longer. Again, more texture. So that way it's messy and nice. Make this a little bit tighter. I might go into clipper territory. I'm not quite sure. It depends on how sure I'm going to get them with my scissors.
Sounds great.
And next week, you are playing. No, not next week. It's in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks you're playing.
But I leave in a week playing the When We Were Young festival. The emo resurgence.
Resurgence.
Year 2. It's going to be very cool.
Now, did you guys play year 1?
No.
Okay.
No, I actually don't know how much repeat there is. It is funny because I know when they announced the headliner, it was like, oh, every emo band ever, emo, pop punk, whatever, the whole scene is playing. And then they came out with year 2, and you could probably say the same about year 2, but I don't know how much actual overlap they had.
Okay.
There's tons of bands though. We're stoked. A lot of these guys we haven't seen in a long time, and we haven't played music together in a long time. So at least the 5 of us.
And your band is called?
Something Corporate.
Which now makes more sense when we're talking about the Can't Look Corporate.
Yeah.
And a band called Something Corporate.
So exactly. Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, the lineup we have now is kind of the original, and it's the first time this lineup will have played a full show in 20 years. We did a reunion tour in 2010, which was great, fun, and highly successful. So that was cool. And then kind of coming back into it now in 2023 has been really fun for all of us personally. I think we're super fortunate in that we like each other.
That's not always the case.
No, definitely not. I mean, and look, we've had our ups and downs. I mean, when we broke up,
what year was that?
We took like an official hiatus in 2004, I think it was, but we still continued to play some shows, like college shows, like fly dates, we called them. Like we'd all fly out for the weekend, play some college gigs, and then fly home. Yeah, we like each other. I'm friends with all of the guys in the band, and they're friends with each other. My best friend is in the band, William, who's a guitar player. And he's actually he's kind of the one who has not played a full show with us in 20 years. He's the guy who will complete that lineup.
Okay. I was going to ask you.
2010, he did not do the tour. William was the first to leave. He's the only one to leave. We all stayed together, and then he kind of he left before we actually had like our hiatus and all that. So anyway, leaving the details out, he didn't do 2010, but now he's going to do this run with us. And yeah, everybody's cool. We like each other. We like each other's company. We have fun hanging out. I think the thing that is kind of funny to me and we keep talking about is actually the band, ironically, has continued to be like independently. The members have been pretty successful and arguably gotten a little bit corporate. Two of them are lawyers.
Oh, wow.
William and Josh. And then Andrew did not get corporate. He's still doing his thing. He still sells out 2,000 people a night.
And he has his own solo project, right?
Yeah. So he has Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness,
Okay.
Which is his current and has been for a while project. But Andrew did Jack's Mannequin right after something corporate. And then
What did he do in Jack's Mannequin?
He was Jack's Mannequin.
See, so the emo scenester scene thing was never really on my radar.
Yeah.
There'd be some bands that crossed over and they'd get into more of a heavier thing, like Atreyu, for instance. Was one of those bands that kind of could play that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would they were that band that on Warped Tour where you would watch and go, they could also play Ozfest. So Ozfest was more my festival. But a lot of my friends were more into the Warped Tour. And I had never really gotten into a Warped Tour until I started cutting hair from first to last. Yeah. And that was my first experience at a Warped Tour. And that's when I started noticing, like, oh, it's actually not what I thought it was.
Yeah. Well, I would say two things. One thing, I said Andrew was Jack's Mannequin. Andrew certainly wrote and made Jack's Mannequin. His band was absolutely incredible, very close friends as well, but some of like best musicians I ever knew. So I have to credit when I say Andrew was Jack's Mannequin, he certainly was, but those guys are outstanding musicians and huge contributors to that project. Two, back to your point, we were definitely the ones on Warped Tour that like the punk rockers didn't like, because we were like the resident pansies.
Resident pansies. Yeah. Explain that one.
We just, I mean, look, we're not hard. Like I told you earlier in the interview, like I'm a big Beatles guy. Yeah. Like I grew up hearing a lot of punk, but choosing, because I'm from Orange County, so it was all punk in my age group. But I was listening to like every Beatles album, Zeppelin, Simon and Garfunkel. Like I tend to like lean that side. And actually, ironically, I joined something corporate. We started something corporate in high school. Okay. Like Andrew and I had Spanish class together.
You're like, hola. He's like,
hola. Yeah. Hola. Want to do Battle of the Bands?
Yeah.
It was like, and we did.
So you didn't know that much Spanish to ask.
Yeah. Quiero do Battle of the Bands.
The music.
That's truly how it started.
That's awesome.
And so, but I wanted to be, Andrew played piano. Oh. And so I was like, well, I won't be in a punk band if the singer's playing piano. And,
how could that happen?
Yeah. And so like, it kind of ended up there, but anyone who would listen to something corporate wouldn't know. I mean, like Bad Religion, Brian Baker of Bad Religion famously hated our band.
Really?
Yeah. He that's a whole other story, and it's one of my better ones in that era. But he was like, he said in an interview, we were the worst band he's ever heard.
The worst?
Yeah.
I said you were the worst band.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was super bummed out, man, because like,
you like Bad Religion.
I really love Bad Religion. I grew up skating and surfing. They were in every skate, snowboard, surf video ever. Yeah. And I was like, so bummed out, and we were nice. We were cool guys. Like we were punk rock in our own way. We just didn't, we weren't punkers,
It's funny you bring that up about like somebody you like and you love their music, and then they just go and shit on yours.
Oh, right? Dude, yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be like. But to your point that you guys were cool, is think about this, is that like there are bands that I've met where I may not be a fan of the genre or whatever. But I will always be like, dude, they're cool dudes.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you get to know the person, you understand the music more.
100%.
And then you start appreciating the music.
Yeah.
There's been so many instances.
Yeah.
Okay, here's an example. Under Oath. Not my particular brand of music, but one Warped Tour, we were on the tour bus together. They were super nice guys. And you know what? I gave them a listen because they were so cool. I had to give a listen. I'm like, well, you know what? They do a great job at what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's funny. And I mean, I took it in stride. It wasn't lost on us that we didn't sound like all the other bands on Warped Tour. It's not like we were like, that wasn't shocking to us that they thought that, because we did. And we were like the lighter side of it. So I wasn't even like, I was bummed out about it, but I was like, yeah, I get it. I get where he's coming from. I was just like bummed that he was like,
it was your band he was talking about.
Yeah.
It could have been the other band. You'd be like, that sucks for them.
Well, dude, and I have an even more exaggerated example of that. Dan and Shay, the pop country act, like huge. And they're like, that pop country is certainly not my go-to, although I am a pop music fan. So I appreciate pop music. Those guys, their band, like their hired band, is comprised of a bunch of like scene guys. Yeah. So I knew one of them through a friend, went and saw Dan and Shay. Totally. I was like, I love Dan and Shay. Like, I love listening to that music now. And it's cheesy pop country. And I hope if Dan and Shay ever see this, I fully respect what you do. But you know, they have their moments, very cheesy pop country, but I'm like, but I love it. It's on the nose. It's like, it's so obvious. Layups, you know, the lyrics are layups, but it's like, it's 4/4. It's fun. It's like, they pull the heartstrings just enough, you know? And I'm like, yeah, you're cool. But to your point, it's like, I went in really openly wanting to like them because I loved their band, you know? Yeah. And those guys, they were nothing but gracious and cool. But yeah, and leaving their bus, I'm like, dude, those guys are awesome. And got to listen to their pop country music, which is certainly not my go-to genre. But I was like, yeah, dude, I like that. A couple of their songs, I'll be like singing top of lungs, you know, like, yeah.
It's funny you say that, like cheesy pop country, and they do it on the nose. I always felt that like it was never really officially summer until Sugar Ray released their single. It was like, because their song "I Just Want to Fly," which most people know that song, but that's the only song on that record that sounds like that.
Oh, 100%.
The whole record, it's like heavy guitars, kind of like, it's definitely hard rock. Yeah. And "I Want to Fly" is like way out of left field. But every record after that is a continuation of that vibe and that whole thing. Totally. And so I always would joke around with my friends. They're like, is it summer? I'm like, has Sugar Ray released a new single yet? Because whatever they released was like the soundtrack in for my life that summer. Once Sublime stopped making music, which to me was like a very SoCal vibe anyways. I was in from Long.
So right,
yeah. It was like, well, who's really creating that whole like relaxed, fun, we're at the beach, we're having a barbecue. Right. It was Sugar Ray. Yeah. And then to me, it came Dirty Heads later on.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah. One of our tour guys tours with Dirty Heads. I see them when they come through because they were cool. There for that guy. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, that's a funny one. I mean, then of course, Sugar Ray being Orange County guys.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually the amount of bands that end up being famous pop or like pop rock bands who started thinking or actually are rock bands. They're just rock bands. Yeah. Like Sugar Ray is one of them. Matchbox 20 was like, yeah, we're a total rock band. And then they got popular. And if you ask them, they're like, yeah, we're like a credible rock band. And you're like, wait, Matchbox 20, you know? And
same way.
Another great example.
They would like start off with this punk band. I just kept reading all these articles. Yeah. I only knew them. The only time they came on my radar was that song that just would not stop playing on the radio. Yeah. Where Nicolas Cage is like a ghost or something. Yeah. In 6/8, no less. What was it? I don't know. It has like the violins and the cello or so.
I'll fit it, man. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That thing.
Great monster song. Yeah.
But it was like, somebody's like,
oh my God, why am I not thinking of it?
All I remember is going, I was reading an interview, they're like, oh, pop up. I'm like, pop. What?
You are,
what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess the same can be said if you only heard Something in the Way by Nirvana and said, here's a punk rock band.
Yeah.
You'd be like, this is not punk rock.
Yeah. Totally.
It's the one song that I got introduced to, and I'm like, this is not at all what I just read.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you were on the Warped Tour.
Yep.
So you started a band with Andrew. You guys are in high school. You guys are high school band sweethearts in a way.
Yeah, totally.
And this is like late 90s that you guys started.
Exactly.
98?
That was probably 97. And that was a different act. 3 something corporate members were in that act. All of our first band, I think, called Left Here.
Okay.
It was like we practiced 6 times. We won Battle of the Bands. We played the regional battle and we broke up. But then Andrew kind of came back and he was like, hey, dude, I'm going to put together this. I want to be in another band. Would love to have you be the drummer. And that was with him and Josh, who's in something corporate, the other songwriter in something corporate, and then William and Clutch. And we actually had another guy named Ruben in there, but that to save you the story on that one. But he ended up like going studying abroad. William took his place and he kind of just stuck, who is now like my best friend.
So this group that you talk about with William now officially in the lineup is what most fans would probably know as now the original line.
Yeah, precisely.
And that's the lineup that got signed and recorded the first record together.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so we were all on the record deal.
I think like bands don't really like whatever the first recording was is the original lineup.
Exactly.
I think that
I'm with that. Yeah,
this is how I look at it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, like we love Ruben even now. Like Ruben's awesome, but we became a real band with that lineup. And yeah, we got signed. I guess I was 19 or 20 or something. And yeah, William was on all of that stuff with us. And
you're like 19, 20. You just got signed. What was that process like? What's that process like then? And I'm not going to ask you what that process like is now, but I'm pretty sure if you had, it would have been a lot different today.
Yeah, it definitely would have. We were kind of we got signed when the record industry was like clinging to the past and didn't really know what to do about the future. So we were lucky.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah. We got like a normal record deal at the time, which was probably like, the sum of like the prior 20 years, not the future 20 years, because the future 20 years are very different. We got a 5-album deal. We signed to, I should say, we signed a Drive-Thru.
Okay.
And that was like a family. It really was like, and we got to know, and that's how you and I kind of met, like through the knowing of the Finch guys and, Starting Line and all those guys. But that was really cool. And it was really very family-esque. In fact, they came out with like this compilation with they called All in the Family, and it was all of us and like a bunch of our music. But so we released an EP on Drive-Thru, but Drive-Thru was attached to MCA.
That's what I thought I knew they had some major label connection. I couldn't remember. And I kept thinking, I knew there was an M, and I was like, it's not MGM.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it's not AMC, which are like not music things like that. I was like, maybe it was A&M.
A&M was all under Universal, but MCA was actually huge until then.
Yeah.
And then they dissolved it, and we actually were still on MCA. They dissolved it, and we got pushed over to Geffen. That's kind of like a long and not that interesting story. So we put out the EP on Drive-Thru, and then everyone really liked it. It was something quite different.
Different for the label?
Different for the label.
Okay.
And I think different for, they were leaders in the scene, Drive-Thru,
How were Drive-Thru leaders or front runners?
Sure.
With that particular genre of music?
Well, there were Drive-Thru fans, Drive-Thru Records fans, and they weren't just fans of bands on Drive-Thru. They were fans of the label. Like they had merch. They did well with it. People put it this way, people will proudly wear Drive-Thru Records shirts. That was like a take on like In and Out.
I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. It's iconic. I mean, I picture it in my head, and it's like there were Drive-Thru Records fans. They signed us, and that gave us a ton of credits. We didn't think we were this pop punk band. They loved us, and they're like, you don't sound like anything we have. We want you. And we're like, okay. And then so that was actually a huge fortune for us, because when we toured initially, why would someone in Cleveland, Ohio like us? Drive-Thru fans showed up. because they knew Drive-Thru put us out. And then they would listen to us and they're like, we like it. They wanted to like it. You know, they were oriented to like it because it was Drive-Thru.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were paving the way in that scene in so many ways. You know, they had Newfound and Phoenix TX earlier, Newfound Glory, and then Finch and us and Starting Line were really the same time. Dashboard, they actually had Dashboard acoustic album.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was pretty contentious. I don't know the story. I just think it was contentious. But he did all of the songs acoustic, and then he went to Vagrant and they put a band behind him, and yeah, he continued to grow. The fans loved it. MCA loved it, and they quickly upstreamed us to MCA, and we were on a major record label.
Like that.
Yeah. Same thing happened to Finch. Both of our bands were quickly upstreamed to MCA, like around the same time.
Did you guys tour together?
Yeah. I
can't imagine that the music sounding.
The only common thread we had was Drive-Thru. From the sonic level, like, I mean, it was like,
who doesn't scream?
No.
Nate does.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, we toured. I mean, people liked us because we were Drive-Thru, but my mom didn't like Finch. She's like, oh, that's a screaming band, you know? And she wasn't wrong. They were screaming.
I mean, they are screaming. Either you like screaming or you don't. Like, I have two boys. My oldest loves Slipknot.
Nice.
My youngest one wants to listen to Willie Nelson.
That's great. See, I would hang with the younger one. That's my personal inclination.
And I like both.
Yeah.
I love both. My oldest got in because you see on the walk, I love heavy music because it was the most fun to play live for me.
Right.
But as far as listening, I've been on a huge outlaw country kick. Like Waylon Jennings, Merle Haggard, Charlie Daniels. I don't know why. Yeah. There's something about that like 70s outlaw.
Because it's rad. Yeah, it's super cool.
You start listening to these lyrics, these guys weren't making things.
No, they were from jail.
Yeah. I've always thought that country and rap, actually early rap, before it became really commercialized.
Right.
In early country were really just people talking about what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the popularity, the commercialization. And now you have people who, you know, hey, I got my Wranglers, I got my Lees, I got my boots, I got my hat.
Totally.
I look this way.
Yeah.
Same with the rap. Like now there's an image for rappers, there's an image for country.
Yeah.
I think the outlaw part, like why I think in particular, like why gangster rap with that early Death Row crew hit so hard is they're just authentic.
Yeah.
That's why like the old country gets to me a lot more than the newer stuff.
Yeah.
Except for Jelly Roll. There's something about the way he sings. Like, I feel like he's lived a hard life. So when he's talking about some of this stuff, yes, it's very pop, it's very commercial, but I feel that like what he's actually singing about means a lot to him.
Yeah.
Versus somebody just singing something like somebody natural. I wrote this really great song.
Yeah.
It's called like, you know, I only talk to God when I need a favor. He's like, oh, it sounds like a hit.
Yeah.
Versus him like, this is what I do.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. Well, yeah. Like the difference between him and Dan and Shay would be that.
There you go. Absolutely. So you got upstream to MCA.
Yeah, I got on MCA. That was wild. I mean, we made a massive record in a massive studio. This Cello Studios. It was where like they recorded Pet Sounds and Frank Sinatra. I know. We were in Studio 2 right after Weezer did Ratitude. Okay. And Tom Petty was making the last DJ album next to us the whole time. Like we shared a bathroom.
Did you run into Petty?
Yeah, totally.
Was he cool?
Yeah. He's quiet. He's so famous.
Yeah.
That he knows you knew who he was. I said that very weird. He knows that you knew who he knew that.
I'm going to look at this now. This is great. He was so famous
that he knew that you knew who he was.
Yeah. He's like, yes.
And he's like, yes, I'm Tom Petty. Like, please act normal kind of vibe, you know? But like, cool. I mean, one of my favorite stories in my personal life was we're at Cello Studios. When you walked out of our studio, you walked towards Studio 2. We were in 3. They always record, you're at least a control room of Studio 2. And then to the left was the tracking room. And the whole like Petty and the Heartbreakers was set up in there. You turn right, and then if you were to about face, you'd be looking into the tracking room.
Yeah.
And Petty, I was walking in that way. Petty's standing there, leaning against his amplifier, Rickenbacker guitar around his neck, joint like I swear about to fall out of his mouth, like hanging off the bottom of his lip, and he's looking down. and he kind of glances up at me and just goes like this. He's holding his, not holding his guitar, sitting around at Rickenbacker, and he just goes, like, said hi to me. And I'm just like, hey, Tom Petty.
Did you say, hey, Tom Petty?
No, I did not. I just like was trying to be, I was like,
Trying to like not freak out.
I was like, yeah,
So,
you and me, man.
yeah.
We're here right now.
I've always wanted to know if there was any people in bands who ended up freaking out and have like that Wayne's World moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they're like on their knees, but we're not worthy to like Alice.
Right.
I've always wanted to know, like, somebody like, yeah, well.
Yeah. I'm not like that. I'm not like that.
You've never been starstruck.
I have, like, I've been starstruck, but I don't get freaked out really with celebrities. It was very cool. You know, I went pee next to him many times. It was just like, shocking and amazing. But the point being is, like, we were a garage band, actual garage band.
Yeah.
People started to like us, and we were in Orange County, South Orange County, Dana Point. Then we got picked up by an indie label that was rad, Drive-Thru. And then very quickly, within a year, got upstreamed to MCA. And now we're in a studio where they recorded some of the most legendary records ever, recording next to Tom Petty. And it was just like, yeah, that was a wild ride.
And this is now in like the year, like what, 2000?
2000, I guess 2001, probably. Yeah. Early 2001.
I'm going back into all of my friends who were really into that genre of what they were talking about. And I remember something corporate always came up.
Yeah.
And I remember it was like all the bands you said, you know, Newfound Glory, Starting Line. They were also into other bands like Alkaline Trio was another one.
Yeah, totally. They were on Warped Tour the whole time we were on.
Yeah.
We did the full Warped Tour in 2002.
Okay.
So that lineup we spent every day with Alkaline Trio, Bad Religion, No Effects. It was funny. Warped Tour, that's a fun one. Like, we started on Warped Tour, and look, dude, like, we had barely toured.
Yeah. What's that like? Like, what's this like? I imagine from going to playing shows and hauling your own equipment, not really having like a tech or a roadie or tour manager.
Yeah.
Did you have since you're on the major label, at this point, did you have the big tour bus? Were you doing like the little van?
Yeah, we had a bus. We did a couple years in a van, and then we had a bus. I think Warped Tour was our first bus. You know, in one word, it was intimidating.
To have the bus?
No, to be out with all those bands. Your question to like, how was it to like go through all that and end up on tour? Like, the bus was great and amazing. All of that stuff was so cool, but like, we were surrounded. I also had kind of just started playing drums. I had only been playing drums a couple of years at that point.
Oh my God. So not only did you like luck out of getting your high school band signed to a label, jumping to a major label, you're also, what, under 10 years of playing drums at this point?
Oh, 2.5.
Really?
Yeah. Like 2.5 years of playing drums. I mean, I should explain, like, I grew up, my dad owned a music store. Okay. So I was always around musicians and music. I've always had musical talent, and I knew I could sit down and play a beat, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't get a kit and start playing until I was 17.
That sounds about the age I feel like most musicians kind of pick up, between like 10 and like 20.
Yeah, it was definitely late in the game, although I had been totally inundated with music and knew that I had musical talent, but it was like something I had not really like seriously pursued. But point being, like, I think we were all stoked, intimidated, eager to prove ourselves and to tour and become the band. We were all hardworking, you know? So we were like, we're going to do this. Like, we didn't ever take the opportunity for granted.
Yeah.
We signed autographs to anyone who ever wanted one, really, until the bus had to leave or we were done.
I'm glad to hear that, because I think that like that sort of also builds more meaning with the fans.
100%. I attribute some of our popularity to that very specific thing.
And signing autographs is a whole different work ethic.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Did you guys like just show up to the merch table randomly?
We took turns.
Okay.
We showed up, and we the whole day was booked at merch for someone to be there.
Okay.
Might have been 2. I think it was 2. So I think we did shifts of 2 people.
You didn't have like a merch person. You guys personally?
No, we did.
Okay, so
he would sell, and we would hang, and we'd sign autographs. And look, as we started getting bigger, We didn't have time to sell anything.
Yeah.
Our merch guy was busy and we were busy signing. I mean, we were fortunate enough at Warped Tour, first Warped Tour in 2002, to have a huge line at our merch tent.
That's awesome.
Most of the day. And we were just signing and saying thank you. And dude, to this day, me sitting here in this seat, I'm so thankful for those people who showed up. I mean, we were nothing without them. I mean, that is the absolute truth.
I say that all the time. I'm like, without fans, the band
we're writing songs for ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's cool to know early on that you guys, had that understanding because you're young.
Yeah.
So there's not this level of seasoned maturity where some bands kind of find out like, oh, you know why? We don't have the same rabid fan base that we did. So now we have to start interacting. Like they're linking the game up.
Totally.
It's
yeah,
cool
dude.
Because I think if you do that, you have more staying power.
100%. I can tell you in my shoes, you are right. You're very right about that.
I thought so.
We have more staying power. Dude, I still have really, big fans of the band that hit me up on Instagram now, and I still reply to them. There's this gal who I pretty consistently chat with. She'll just drop in and go, "How are you?" And I'll say, "Pretty good." We don't, we're not close, but her name's Brina. We chat. I really appreciate them caring, and they're great. They're awesome people. She's awesome. The only time you need to back away is when they start overstepping. It gets kind of weird, which we've had that. But dude, we had our biggest fan and one of the best people is this gal named Blaine. She liked us before we were popular. If anyone found us from our fan base, it was Blaine. Lived in Long Beach, found out about something corporate, drove to every show. Before we got signed, we were playing 200, 100, 200.
Chain Reaction?
All the Chain Reaction shows. We grew up at a venue too called Coach House and Chain Reaction too. Those shows, she's at every one. Fortunately, our show in Vegas we have coming up, we have a side show to the When We Were Young Fest.
Where's that at?
House of Blues. Sold out in a minute and a half.
What?
Yeah. We were so
amazing.
I know. We were
have you thought about playing Austin?
Yeah. Yes. We're considering it.
At Emos?
Yeah, it would probably be an Emos show or probably be Stubbs, actually. Anyway, Blaine didn't get tickets. She's always been great and respectful. And that's all we've ever asked of anyone, all anyone ever asks of anyone. She hits me up on the side. I'm so bummed out. I didn't get tickets. I never asked for these things from you guys, but I have to see this show. Immediately, William, me, and Andrew are on a text thread.
We're yeah.
Blaine didn't get tickets. Oh, she hit you up. She hit me up too. Done. She's coming. She's on the list.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I mean, it's cool, but it's definitely what we should do anyway.
No,
but we totally appreciate it. It's a mutual feeling. We're she's right. She can't miss this show. No. It wouldn't be the same.
No, it's great. Some of my favorite bands, one, you like the music like Blaine, right? So yeah, Blaine loves, gets music. She liked it before you got popular, right?
Yeah.
There's been several bands in my life where you see them and you're like, this band's amazing.
Yeah.
And you develop this friendship of fan and musician.
Right.
Where we know the respected parties. I am the fan, they are the musician. And I was really young. I was 16 or 17. And as soon as my last class was in high school, so you're out at 2:00 or something, I'd get in my car and I'd go to wherever they were playing, maybe Orange County or San Diego, wherever the all-age club venue was, and I'd go see them. And I loved to see if I could get something signed. Just get some CD, You do that enough, and they're like, hey, do you want a wristband?
Yeah.
Of course. And to this day, Fear Factory is that band. They were the first band to give me a wristband. And I remember all of my friends were I could see them, and I was on the side of the stage.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I thought I had made it.
Yeah.
I had made it. I was like, this is great, So I know I can completely relate to what Blaine is talking.
Well, and the only thing that would also, if you're cool, you'll do it. No one's getting a wristband if they're not cool. And by cool, I just mean not hip, just respectful. if you're not going to get back there and act weird and make things awkward, which they saw in you, I'm sure. You're like,
well, I didn't drink, and I still haven't done any drugs at 42.
Yeah, you said that.
They knew I was not a liability.
Yeah, totally. Don't be a liability for sure. And that's the only thing that can really breach that, but it's often breached. Like people just, they get ahead of themselves. They kind of objectivize you.
Would you agree that there is an unwritten rule? I wouldn't say rule, unwritten etiquette of being backstage at a venue with a band if you're not in the band. I feel there's etiquette. And I think etiquette changes from group to group.
The etiquette applies to me too. Like I have a lot of friends, obviously, like from the era or in the industry. Dude, when I go backstage, I am like strictly adhering to the etiquette. It doesn't matter that I've done it. It matters that that's their home for that night. It's like you don't go into someone's home and be obnoxious or overstep your boundaries. Like, in fact, like you bring them a bottle of liquor or something. Like to this day, it's like, dude, I breached the etiquette. I'm not invited back. It doesn't matter that I was in a band that we toured, like whatever. Yeah. It's just that basic respect. Like, absolutely, there's an etiquette.
Yeah. One time, Machine Head gave me passes because I was friends close to some of the guys at that time. They're no longer in the band. And one of my friends was like the top tech, right? Yeah. So they got myself in and they said, and I said, I want to bring my parts because they listened to this. I was an only child. So they heard all the music and they liked some of the Machine Head stuff. So they went down to the Glass House with me. My mom did as a thank you is she made them homemade cookies.
Nice. It's great.
And she goes, what do you think they're like? And I remember my mom made these like rum balls. These cookies with rum in them. Yeah. I go, well, they like to drink. And so she made like chocolate chip and rum balls.
That's great.
It was so funny because the band was like, we live in restaurants. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
To get something homemade.
So true. Absolutely.
So random. I mean, I think about it now.
That goes a very long way.
I don't know if I'd want to eat something that a fan made me.
Yeah.
If I didn't know them, like, is there fentanyl in this? Yeah. Is that powdered sugar?
I know,
fentanyl?
Right?
Hang on.
Yeah, we had like, there was no rule against it. It was just like what they look like.
Yeah.
Like, okay, they gave us this great looking cake. We'd actually love to eat it. Who's let me get, are they there? Can you point it? Like, we were like, who was it? Do they look normal? Were they nice? Or did they seem like they might be hiding the fact they want to kill us? Yeah.
Did they put mushrooms in this?
Yeah, exactly.
I remember in cosmetology school, this one girl made pot cookies and you could tell
oh my God,
the people that she made pot cookies. And one of the girls got this crazy case of the fucking giggles. And we're like, what is going on with this chick?
Yeah.
And the girl was like, I put pot in them. Like,
oh my God.
And the girl's like, what? And then started giggling. She's like, so funny. She's like, you just drugged me?
Yeah.
This is funny. It was like 10:30 in the morning too. Her whole day was fucked. Yeah,
that's hilarious. That's a bold move. We did that to one of my very close friends. Same thing. He had never smoked or like done any drugs. So we gave him. It was his wife was livid. She was so mad. It was actually kind of heartbreaking. After it happened, she called me crying and was so disappointed at us and like, let me have it, dude. I was like, I don't know, Lori, I'm so sorry. But yeah, same thing. It's he was cool.
He was fine with it.
Yeah, he was cool. But his wife was not cool.
I got in trouble with my friend's mother because I was blamed for him losing his appendix.
Oh God, what?
Yeah.
I don't think you could do that.
Well, that's what I think. But what happened is it was his 21st birthday. And so I brought him like the small, almost flask size of Jägermeister.
Okay.
And it's his 21st birthday party.
Yeah.
Everyone's drinking. And I'm not drinking, because I'm driving. I'm not saying that just because we're on camera. Like, that's literally how I am.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, happy birthday, buddy. And my best friend, Robert, is... all right, dude, you got to drink it. And he starts drinking. And then my friend Robert puts this finger under the bottle.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But because I got the bottle, I got blamed for it.
Oh my gosh.
And then the next day, he felt like he was awful, right? Just completely like hungover. And day 2, he's like, man, I have alcohol poisoning.
Oh my
By
God.
day 3, I think it was, he was like,
Appendicitis.
yeah, he had appendicitis. And I get on the phone with him. He's in the hospital. It's like already had the thing removed. And I make some joke.
Oh my
He just
God.
throws the phone and his girlfriend picks up. She's like, what'd you do? And she goes, I'm like, basically I made him laugh. And he's like, he can't talk to you because you're going to make him laugh. I'm like, well, laughter is the best medicine, right? And he's like, just hang up. We're done.
Oh my God.
We're friends. But it was just one of those things where when I saw his mother at like a barbecue thing or whatever, I forget exactly what that thing is. She's like, you almost, I'm like, I did not.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I bought this.
I gave him Jaeger on his 21st birthday. Yeah.
I didn't do this. This is him. He put the finger on the bottle.
Also, like, does that cause appendicitis? I think you've got to have appendicitis like coming on at least.
So he asked the doctor that, and the doctor said, you are going to get appendicitis. This could have expedited it.
Sure.
And I was like, that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Totally. And
something
all
like
I kept thinking about is like, he liked to go out to Akatia wells and like go, with this sand rail and all that. Maybe we did him a favor. He could have been out there. He would have been having airlifted.
For sure.
Good. God forbid he didn't get cell service, right?
Totally.
We did him a favor. We did it within cell service domain.
His mother should thank you.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty lofty to be blaming the kid who gave him a Jaeger on his 21st birthday.
It was because the whole bottle was drank in one gulp. Yeah,
that's fair. I mean, that's aggressive.
Look, now
it's fair that they would not like that. I still don't think they can blame you for appendicitis.
Well, it's one of those things where the joke was, don't go drinking with Tab. Nick lost an organ.
Yeah. Granted, it was like the one you don't need, but
yeah, I mean, it wasn't like you like lost a lung.
Yeah, I lost my appendix. I was 4. If it was not induced by drink.
Did you ever find it after that?
Yeah, I'd say. I think they disposed of it. I don't know. I could ask. Maybe they still have it.
I actually, when I got my tonsils taken out, I wanted to see if I could save them. They had to do like all this biopsy. But I really wanted to have to put the lucite, like a paperweight. Like, here's my here's my tonsils. And they're like circular. So the ends probably look like weird testicles. But I was like, it would be so funny to have these as like a paperweight. Can you imagine like walking into the office like, what?
That's hilarious.
What are those?
In just some formaldehyde.
Yeah, just floating around.
Wow.
Yeah. We've completely derailed.
Yeah, we had an agenda. I don't think we've honored it.
Well, we've honored some of it.
Have we?
Yeah. You're on tour. So that was touring, and you guys stopped touring around 2004, you said? 2000?
Yeah, I suppose 2005, I guess. We were touring, and then we were doing flight dates and small tours, but it's funny that I don't know this. There's certainly places you could look that would track it. Our last tour before the hiatus, we were in Japan when we actually did it, or Australia. Got it. It's one of the band guys could easily answer this, but it was falling apart. We were on tour with The Offspring in Australia, and I remember things were getting pretty bad with us. Mm-hmm. And by bad, we never were throwing blows. We just really got tired of each other.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah, sure.
I'm wondering, and I've heard this, is that being in such close quarters with individuals that aren't your family. And I'm going to say it's like different, like if you're in close quarters if you're in the armed services, like you have to be, there's no getting out really, right?
Right.
And the penalty for getting out is quite severe.
Yeah.
With the band, you can either put a pause or break up. And because there's an exit, the pressure to continue moving forward, I don't know, is it as...
Yeah.
I think it's like unnatural to some degree to be that close with people who aren't your family. And even with your family, they can drive you nuts too. Did you guys ever give yourselves breaks? Like bands like Tool, for example, they go in huge breaks.
No, we didn't give ourselves breaks.
Okay.
We were doing 320 shows a year.
It's a lot of shows.
And then recording in between.
Did any of you guys also live together too?
No, I mean, we were touring so much that we didn't really, I lived with my parents because I was gone for 320 days of the year and I was in LA. Yeah, I did this funny thing for alternative press, like AP Magazine.
Yeah.
They did like a Cribs thing. this is probably like such a bad idea on their part and my part to like say yes. You know, we're this band, we're playing 3,000 person shows on average, like across the country. I actually got kicked out of my own room because my brothers shared a room when I left and was gone all the time. They're like, your brothers are going to split up and one's going to have your room. So they have their own room. I was sharing a room with my brother when
you did the cribs,
when I did this thing, and I was like, all right, well, we're going to have to make this like jovial because it's not impressive. And my drums were like in the corner of the bedroom that I was sharing with my brother. And I was like coming off of these tours that were, you know, were like fans are like freaking out and so happy to see us. And we're, you know, we're like rock stars in our own right. And then I'm like, all right, I got to go like share a room with Derek, my little brother. And then they published it. Not surprisingly, it got like a quarter of a page, and there was like a small low res picture of the room with my drums in it. It's like, is this good content or not? Like, you have to think it's funny, or you'll probably just turn a page, or you'll just feel bad for me. It's not that I couldn't have afforded it. It was just like, why
waste money?
Yeah,
I know a couple.
A lot of bands are like that. A lot of band guys.
Yeah, I know a couple of guys where they'll they basically put all their stuff in storage.
Yeah,
and,
might as well.
And then they end up with like a long hotel lease.
Yeah,
for like 3 weeks.
Interesting. Yeah,
and they're like, look, I don't need an apartment.
Yeah,
like I need my clothes, I need my guitar right now, and then I'm gonna be back on the road for 3 weeks.
Yeah,
and they get like they said it's cheaper than renting.
Yeah,
because you have to break the lease, you have to move everything in. Yeah. Like live in a hotel for like one of those extended stay kind of things with a kitchen.
Sure.
And I thought that was so weird at the time.
Yeah.
But the more I started meeting more band guys, hearing that this was like a kind of like a thing.
Sure. It's a total thing.
Yeah.
Well, and to be fair, I bought a condo like when I moved out. I didn't go rent somewhere. You know, I was saving money, and
you were saving
we were gone all the time. Yeah, exactly. And I bought something instead of rented when I did move out. So that was cool and helped me quite a bit. Interesting thing. And we didn't know any different either. We were teenagers when we started doing this. So it was like, to your thought about like, you know, do you just stay together? I would say two things. We didn't ever take it for granted, but we also had no perspective. This is what we've got. I also am like, ardently care about my own identity, and I felt like I didn't have an identity outside of the band. I felt like I was a lot more than the drummer for something corporate, but the thing everyone knew me for was being the drummer for something corporate. That really didn't sit well with me, like really bothered me.
Interesting.
Look, we were in a band that people loved. We got a lot of adoration, but I actually got to a point for me personally, this is like just how I am, that I didn't even appreciate it. I was just like, if I was cool, you wouldn't even know why. You know, you'll have people come up to you and go, oh, you're so cool. And I'm like, tell me why. Why would you think that, you know?
Because you play drums at something corporate.
Yeah, and that was the reason. And I'm like, I might actually be cool, but you wouldn't even have like, and look, I never like faulted them for that. That was just like an internal,
I think that's
thing I was going through.
People think of somebody in a band that's on tour.
For sure.
You have to be cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad they did. I was wrestling with that. I never like took it out on people. I wasn't like a dickhead because they were like, you know, not seeing me for who I was. I was there for a night, but it was like, yeah, it was a good catch.
So now that your last show was 2005. Yeah. Then you did a reunion around 2010.
Yeah, that was like a full tour.
So now in 2023, this may air 2024 because I have so many I have to get to. What are the changes you've known now about the industry?
Yeah.
And do you think in today's climate, how you guys got discovered would either happen, or would social media have been the vehicle? And is it a meaningful way to get a band out music wise? If that makes sense.
Absolutely. It's meaningful. It creates an opportunity that didn't exist.
Yeah.
Well, we straddled the past and the future of music when we got signed. That was like the pivot point for us. We had both. Yeah. LimeWire, Napster, all that was like happening, right? We encouraged people to download our music because we just wanted them to hear it.
Okay, and you get hair on your face?
No worries.
Hang on. Yeah, this is going to get a lot of hair. And then as you talk, it's just going to get more hair in your mouth.
No worries.
Oh, I'm not big thoughts. But I just know that we get into a spot where it would be, there's only so much I can do while you're still talking.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, well, good. There's no more hair in your face.
Yeah. So we were really straddling both sides. We had the firepower of radio and a record label.
Mm-hmm.
But we also had downloads and the internet. MySpace wasn't even really a thing then. So it was different. And I wouldn't say we had more firepower because we had both. It was just like, it was now being spread out. The radio was less important. Downloads were more important, So it was like net the same. The population of people who liked music was the same. It was just like, it was a confused time as to how they were going to consume it. What we did was we just went to live shows. Like I said, we were on 200 or 320 days a year on average, like for years. And we were like, one thing we can control is our live performances. Mm-hmm. So that was where we went, and it worked. It worked for us, and it was safe. It was reliable. We liked it because we controlled it in its own way. The label doesn't have much to do with your touring. They may finance some of it to support their investment of the record, but they don't get anything from it.
For most bands, they make the majority of their actual money playing shows and selling merchandise.
Yeah, unless they sell a ton of records.
Which is
over 1 million.
Over 1 million. So yeah, you have to hit.
And that's when you're like starting to make it.
Okay. Define make it.
Recoup. Like in this context, I mean recoup. Like your album has paid the money back it took to make your record.
And they call that the advance.
Yeah, they advance for a number of things, but yeah, the recording. Well, yeah, they give you an advance and then they have a recording budget, really. So as far as like the semantics of it all, I don't like it. It's like they give you an advance to record the album, and if you need to probably leave your job if you're going to be committed to this. So like you get some money to do that. We didn't get a ton, but we got enough. We were living pretty cheap at the time, so it didn't take much. But
a lot of Del Taco.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, so you make the record, and then you get out on the road and support it. And so they would do that at, I don't know, probably 1 million records or something. You've now recouped, and you get a bigger percentage of your record sales.
Okay, so it's like a tier system.
Yeah.
So are you gaining money off the record sales and this whole time, or is it like all the money that every record is sold goes directly to the label?
So you get like a tiny bit.
Okay, so let's say it's like 10 cents on every dollar until that.
Yeah, and it's less. I think it's less.
So it's less than 10 cents on a dollar.
Yeah, until you recoup.
And then after that, everything changed.
Yeah, totally.
Because you're now in a positive cash flow.
Yeah, and you paid us back. Now we're both profiting.
Got it.
Do you have a little bit of water?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'll be right back.
Yeah, some water. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Oh, nice. It's a fancy one.
Just put it right there.
Cool. Yeah, so to get back to like the recoup and how that works, I have a pretty different opinion on that.
Share away. I love different opinions.
I don't think that it's always a fair split when you recoup and, whatever. The record label is, I wouldn't say it's like, oh yeah, they're now treating you super well because blah, blah, blah. There's an irony to me that all the people that gripe about record labels and how they've taken so much are rich and famous. And then look, the people who aren't rich and famous, you'll hear them gripe too.
Yeah.
The bottom line is the way the music industry worked.
Past tense.
Yeah, worked. It's still a little bit, but the internet has changed that a whole lot.
Yeah.
And we can get to that. But I wouldn't have done any of this stuff without the support of record labels. They wouldn't know something corporate. They wouldn't know I played in it, which has been a huge gift in my life.
Yeah.
And I've worked really hard on it and for it and all of that stuff. But, I didn't make that record with my money. It's a high risk environment for a record label to invest. For every record that makes it, There's 10 that don't.
Yeah.
So it's funny. It's an alternative view, but it's not real punk rock, because I actually think that they're giving you an opportunity. Look, is it mishandled often? Yes. There's a lot of like misuse, I guess you could say, but not to go into that, but just to say, by the record label, I mean, they invest in your band to make you popular. And when it works, you make money doing what you love. Is the share and the split fair? I don't fucking know. I mean, a lot would say no, but a lot of people are unable to do it. Where I do think it hits a dead end, and it is sad and frustrating, it's for the people who don't make it on their first record deal. The record company still has rights to the music that you're going to make. This to me is the conundrum, and I think is fucked up. The initial getting signed, the initial splits, blah, 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 define fair. Yeah. You're getting the opportunity to get out there and make your music on the most professional level with top level studios and producers. If you have a major record deal, in many cases, that's cool. That's how, like if you didn't get that, you would never have that opportunity. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's high risk, high reward business. And I don't blame them for saying we think you're worth it. We're going to put our money into it. And if it works, we're going to make a lot of money on you, and you'll make a lot of money with us. But if you make an album and they say get shelved, or you make an album and it does well, and then you make another album and it doesn't do well, and they choose not to care about you anymore, they still have rights to 5 more records for, at the time, it was usually a 5 record deal. Yeah. They have 3 in that scenario. You'd have 3 more records that you owe them. Literally, you owe that to them. They may not fund it. They can choose not to fund it. Now you're on your own and you owe them music. And if your music does well, they are benefiting, but they've stopped investing in you. So that to me is fucked. That is when they should let you out, right, so to speak.
But I would say that they have an incentive to keep you locked in, because let's say you're like, all right, yeah, we're going to release something corporate, totally, and then you end up writing a hit record. Yeah. Now they just lost. They could have recouped everything in the hit record. Yeah, no, that's true. And I think, at the point that they say, because it's definitely a, like, what have you done for me lately business, to say the least. It could define it. But I don't know, man. I'm not a hater of record labels per se. I'm not either. Yeah. I'm not. I look at record labels as like, let's say it's an investor. Yeah. So if you have a business, that is exactly how it should be looked at. I know the person makes the best pizzas. Yeah. If they only had a pizzeria, they would make millions. Yeah. And then here's the money person. Yeah. Comes in, look, I'm going to front the money. We're going to do like right now we're going to do like a 70-30 split. Yeah. I'm going to take 70. And then once my investment is recouped, then we could talk about a 50-50 split. Totally. Pizza shop's not working. Now they're struggling. They're not making any money. Yeah. Guy goes, I'm cutting my losses. I look at record labels as investors. Yeah. I never looked at them as the hand holder. Right. Right. I do think that they, like a good business. They try to handhold, and it's annoying at times, and they're trying to protect their investment. The real nuance that gets you in the music industry is the whole thing is subjective, and it's trend based. It's like there's so many subjective variables. Oh yeah. That it's like they could tell you need to do something, and your fans, and that won't resonate. Or totally. I remember hearing so many of the bands in the metal world saying oh, you have a band? I go, yeah. They go, do you sound like Korn? And I was like, right. I said, no. They go, it was during that time. They go, look, if you sound like Korn, we want you. And I thought that was so interesting. They would want a band that is already popular. Right. Because I'm like, you're just going to kind of like, you're not going to stand out. You're just going to, but they're hoping that people will hear the band and go, is that Korn? But I always thought it only benefits Korn. It doesn't benefit the new band. Yeah. The new band's going to get lost. Like, is that Korn? Oh, it's not Korn. It's, who is it? It's I've always thought of it like and they want to qualify it. They want it to be data, Korn did well, so you should do well, at least to this degree, which I agree with you. It's like the tail wagging the dog in a way, because it's like, maybe that's the wrong idiom, but it doesn't, why would
you are a guy who likes music and are a good fan, right? Or whatever, or like a good listener to music. You don't want another Korn. You have Korn, you know, and the same, I could say the same for me. I don't need another version of the band I already like. Like, yeah, I kind of like, I want the next cool thing or something new, but they always try to ride that line of like, it's got to be fresh. It's so fresh. But then if it sounds like Korn, for the example, and Korn is popular at the time, then it's like, well, we can hang our hat on that because people like things like Korn. They like Korn and things like Korn, not the food.
They're not exclusively connected.
Right.
It does, you know, there's a band, however much I'm pronouncing the name, but they do not remind me of Korn, but they remind me of like so many of these new metal bands. I kept telling them, it's like these guys grew up listening to new metal.
Yeah.
And they took their favorite elements, they put it together. So
100%.
the songs sound familiar, but it doesn't sound like Korn. It doesn't sound like Linkin Park. It doesn't sound like Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, it's the lowest common denominator of like.
But you can tell they liked those bands.
Totally.
It's not Cold Chamber. Again, two different kinds of genres.
Yeah.
You know, man, they're great.
Yeah.
And I like that because it's a throwback to stuff I like. I think that's why Steel Panther got so popular.
Yeah, totally.
It's like it's a collection of like, oh look, there's a little Van Halen, a little Motley Crue, a little, you know, Poison. It's like all these best dogs, and we're having fun with it.
Yeah, 100%.
But in today's day and age, I remember for a while there was like the 360 deals that were going on.
Yeah, that was like a little after us. Like that, and I don't actually know how that all resolved. What I do know, to get more specific and not just be nebulous the whole conversation, like the internet gives you the opportunity to let tons of people hear your music, no matter like you can control that. Yeah. What has happened though is it's a lot more spread out, and it's funny because now Spotify gets criticized.
Yeah,
because and we smile on the days of record deals and record sales, right? You know, Snoop Dogg very recently criticized Spotify because he's like, when I sold records, I knew how much I was getting. What the fuck, Spotify?
I actually have some data for that.
Oh, interesting.
I do. I did research. Very rarely do I do research. Yeah, it was.
That's a good one to research, though.
Yeah, it was. Let me pull it up. So here's the data.
Okay.
The latest music streaming royalty rates are as follows, right? Okay. So it has the streaming platform. Then it says royalties per stream, and then streams required to make $1. So it gives you an idea. Yeah. You said Spotify.
Yeah.
So I put my podcast on Spotify. I've been an avid proponent of loving Spotify before it was in the States, because I discovered it when I was in Sweden. Right. I was like, what the fuck? We need this shit.
Yeah.
Royalties per stream.
Yeah. $
$0.00318.
Okay.
So you need 314 streams to equal $1.
Wow.
Now, Apple Music, $0.008.
Okay.
Streams required to make $1 is 125.
Yeah.
YouTube Music, $0.002. Streams required 500. Now, I don't know what year. It does seem to be very familiar with some of my friends who have showed me the royalty checks.
Right.
They go, guess how many streams this took to get here?
Right.
And it was a very, wow, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Because radio play and album sales, you didn't have to sell you had to sell 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
1 million streams is not going to get you the same thing.
Yeah, it's and the one thing that I will say, like, against all of it, is art is underappreciated. Art is underappreciated. And it's the amount that art brings to culture and society versus the amount of monetary return. There is a massive disparity. The contribution to life, society, the world is far disproportionate to the return that it gets. I think because it is, there's probably a number of reasons for that, but it's very subjective. Someone has to choose they don't need it. They want it. It's not food, but we all have it. Some of our greatest pleasures is art and music and film and, all of art. It's always like, it's just always monetarily underappreciated.
I agree.
And that's like since the beginning of time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that there's definitely a better appreciation of what music does. Music is one of those things that transcends time.
Yeah.
But in some cases, it always brings and connects people to the same emotion.
Totally. Well, I mean, honestly, I'm a pretty good example of that, where I love music. If there's one thing I know and understand in this world, it's music. I chose, around 30 to stop doing it as my income, as my paycheck. And I don't do it anymore. I play still. Yeah. I continue to play because it serves me as an artist, and it serves me, all of the things you get from doing your art. But I don't have to rely on it to pay my bills, and I'm really happy about that. It's so touch and go, and it is an underappreciated portion of the economy and this and that. And I didn't want to rely on it anymore, so I stopped. I did not stop playing though.
I think it's when you made the conscious choice, where I think a lot of guys in bands who are in bands and then they're not making their money, their single source of money from music, have a different outlook. It's one thing to make the choice and then have the choice made for you.
Totally agree. It's a hard life to not make the choice. And I think, I'm lucky in the same nature as I was saying earlier in the interview. I'm lucky that I have a ton of interests. I never defined myself by the music I played. That was a huge part of me.
Yeah.
But I have tons of things I'm interested in, from from music to business to fishing, and I mean, just to photography. I like all that stuff. All that to say, I have friends who are like, if I'm not playing music, then what am I doing?
I have those friends as well.
Yeah. So more times than not, right? Especially when they get a taste of that success or are actually successful. But it's I'm really lucky that I find a lot of happiness in a lot of different things, because, I have a friend I was in a band with. He lives in Louisiana. He rips a guitar, and he's a brilliant musician. He's a brilliant guitarist, and he doesn't play guitar for his money anymore, but it will always be a compromise to him that he doesn't do that. And that sucks. I feel really fortunate that I've got the best of both worlds in that I have a great job. I'm really stable and I've succeeded in the business world, but I still play. So to me, I'm serving both sides. If I could forever make music on my terms and not have to tour when I didn't want to, sure, I'm in. That's not always realistic. And that goes pretty far up the chain. I'll use Andrew McMahon as an example. He's done great and continues to do great. I think Andrew will always do well because he's such a hard worker, but it's not easy.
No, and he loves what he does.
Yeah.
He's probably the person who, if he stopped that, he'd wake up and go, why am I waking up today?
Yeah. Well, the other thing is if Andrew chose not, Andrew will always make a record, not only because he loves music, but that's his job. And he's like, if I don't make a record, I stop making money. He's 40 this year. And it's more power to him. I love that he's out there doing that. And also that Andrew's the front man and the songwriter for what he does. Yeah. As a drummer, if I chose that path, I don't want that path, I don't want to have to do that.
There's very few drummers who leave the band they started off with and have an equal or greater success.
Totally.
Usually they become the front man. Mm-hmm. Peter Gabriel, Don Henley, Dave Grohl.
Yeah, you need to.
Yeah, that's very rarely does the drummer go from the drummer to be another drummer.
Yeah.
The only drummer I can think who's come out of the shadow of a singer to still do something and still be respected for it and still have that, they go to see him.
Yeah.
Is Max Weinberg.
Oh, yeah, totally.
drummer for Bruce Springsteen. I think he does the Max Weinberg 7.
Right.
He's the only guy I can think of who can command that sort of thing.
Sure. And he has star power. I mean, but it's like, how many drummers have star power? I feel stoked that I've been able to come out of it. Cause I could have been like a hired gun. Yeah. I don't want to be a hired gun musician the rest of my life, dude. There's no health insurance in that. No. You know,
no 401k.
Yeah. And what if your main person or band or whatever decides they don't want to tour that year? Like,
then what?
Also you're not on retainer. Okay. I'm finding a new gig. What now? What? I don't know. You know, it's just not stable.
Yeah. So how do you feel with the hair?
It looks great, dude.
So you see, I just very shorter. So that way you can keep this scruff for a bit. Or if you want to give yourself, you know, some sideburns and go bleach shaving, you totally can. Just wanted to make sure that we work the square shape. The predominantly height is right here in front and a little bit through here. And
last time I like it.
What was that?
You did that last time. I like it.
Cool. I took it short on the sides this time.
Yeah. No, I dig it. I dig the...
I actually kind of like the way this looks more.
Yeah.
The first haircut was our first date.
Yeah.
Us in the waters, you know.
We liked each other then.
It was simple. You know, we're going to do Italian in like a rom-com. And scene number 2, slash movie and pizza.
We're finding our careers together.
Exactly. Third date, spelunking.
My hair in 10 years is going to be pretty fucking wild.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you got to explain it. I actually think it's to hear what it's like to be signed at that age is fun, and to hear about that and knowing what the music was like at that time. It was cool. So if anybody's in our same age group who went to a Warped Tour, it's definitely going to know what that era was like. Yeah. But it's I just think now with so many bands, like, and you hear, I remember my old roommate Lance, he was managed bands. He managed NYTs, Escape the Fate, a number of other groups. And I just remember him talking about the 360 deals during that time. Yes. This is around like mid 2000s, probably like 2007 to 2000, you know, right around there, or mid 2000s. And I remember I was like, can you explain this? And he was explaining how before bands would make the majority of their money on tour and selling merchandise. But with a 360 deal, now the label was getting a percentage of every revenue stream to help recoup the loss of ounces because of things like LimeWire.
Yeah. They weren't selling as many albums. That was their bread and butter.
Yeah. And so if they cannot make money selling the records and the radio airplay was now shifting, the only other option is like, well, we're coming after your merch. Right. Which a lot of bands who had already not had those contracts, who maybe were forced to renegotiate, I heard.
There was a lot of it. Yeah.
That didn't go well. But if you're a band like, if something corporate had gotten signed in 2008 and they wanted a 360 deal, you probably would have said, yeah. I would have like, look, my dream is to tour the world, play music. Right. And I just have to give you a little bit of everything. Yep. Cool. Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, what is the phrase? 100% of nothing. Like 1% of a million is better than 100% of nothing.
That's it. That's it. That's a great way of putting it. It's you've got this situation where, like I said, I could sit here for an hour and say bad things about record labels and they'd be true. And I believe in a lot of it, but you've got to respect the fact that there was less money. It was more spread out. Yeah. Their bread and butter went away. They still had the money to finance music, but dude, it's music is spread so much thinner now. Yeah. Like you could listen to 20 bands that fill your musical cup that I've never heard of easily. And you could find 20 more if they went away. Yeah. You know, like then there was, I think when I started and when we got signed, they said there's enough room in pop culture for 70 bands to be popular. Mm-hmm. There's still like some metric out there of this is how many bands can actually be productive. But yeah, I mean, that's such an interesting concept. And then where I think what people hated so much is that they controlled it and they weren't the artist, which is a hateable thing. You know, it's like they control the art. Is it art now? Like, are you compromising it? You know, there's, like I said, I could sit here for an hour and say bad things. I mean, I would take the opposite opinion. It's like, well, without labels doing even what you're talking about, would there be a music industry? And how would musicians be? So like as much, it's like it's the a necessary evil in a way. Mm-hmm. Like you have to do this sort of deal. Very rarely do you get somebody like Macklemore who comes out something completely independent, has an unreal
contract, I think, with Warner Brothers on distribution only, and not even they own any of it.
Sure.
You know, and those things are, to me, the unicorns of the industry.
Yeah. They're
more honest than not. Your situation and the 360 deals are completely the norm.
I didn't have one, so I can't like fully speak to that.
Yeah.
It probably sucks in its own way. You know, and again, a lot of mismanagement went into that, and a lot of it, like bad spending. Like, you know, the music industry is very glamorous. People love being cool. A lot of money goes into that. Yeah. You know, so look, right or wrong, but I'm not like an absolute hater of record labels like a lot of people are. They give it life, like they give us life. You know, it was a fortune. You know, like it was good fortune that we got that opportunity through those labels.
You said you could criticize something for an hour. I think in any industry you can criticize for an hour. And I think a lot of times people focus more on that than like, well, without that industry, you wouldn't have? Yeah. You wouldn't have the song at your wedding. Yeah. You wouldn't have that song when your heart gets broken. You wouldn't have that song for celebration.
Totally.
You know, people say, you know, are you a glass half empty or a glass half full?
Right.
And my response is, I'm glad there's water in the cup.
Yeah, there you go.
It's just, I don't care how it got there.
Yeah, right.
I'm just happy.
Yeah.
Music for me is like, I don't care which deal it got there. I'm glad it got made, and I'm glad I'm able to hear.
Sure. And what I don't want this to portray as a celebration of record labels, because I wouldn't. But there's just this very clear reality that if they didn't exist and give these things life through their money, through their investment, their high risk investment, that it wouldn't exist. The other thing that's changed so much, and you may have to go here, and it's totally fine if it's not, but recording is so much exponentially easier now to get a good recording. So like, dude, we could take what's in this room and make a sick record in this room.
I know.
On your computer, you probably have all the software. We could start now.
I have my, you know, my Focusrite.
Yeah, exactly. I saw.
I mean, the intro for this podcast. Yeah, I did it on my laptop. Right here. I recorded the guitar, recorded the bass, program the drums, mix it, and I sent, when I got it finished, I sent it to my friend Tim Palmer, the mix Pearl Jam's 10.
Yeah.
Like, how's it sound? It sounds great. He listened to it on the phone and sent me. And I was like, all right, he said it sounds great. That's the mix I'm going with.
Well, that's awesome. And
I need to get him on to talk about recording, because he worked with Bowie,
right,
and Tim Machine, and with Tim Machine, he also worked with like Robert Plant, and, you know, most recently Bill Fowler, right? Like all these bands. I want to know from the recording engineer, producer, mixing side, like how I mean, the industries, technology, I thought
that's a huge thing.
It's changed everything.
Well, the big barrier, this is what really changed also at that time.
Yeah.
The barrier of entry to make a good record, you couldn't make an amazing sounding record in 1995 without any money. Now, like I said, not to repeat it, but we could make a great record in this room by the end of the week.
Yeah.
And like, you just couldn't do that. Like, you needed the right producers. You needed the right this, the right that, you know, engineers, mics, like all that stuff. You know, you get a producer like Danger Mouse, who's like, none of my shit is expensive. Yeah. And he's one of the most prolific producers of the era. That's totally different. So,
and if people want to know what those studios were like, I would recommend a documentary, which is Sound City.
Yeah.
Because that was what everything looked like. You had to have a
totally
that was, 12 feet across.
Yeah.
Now you have that 12-foot console is this.
Yeah, you don't even need it.
You just scroll through it on your laptop.
You just, if you have the 12-foot console, it's just because it's manual and you can use it. But yeah, and I mean, there's still those studios, but
they're great. You can afford it.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Well, and we were lucky enough that we got to hit that era, like it was just like so cool. And I could go either way with this and talk about it. Yeah. I just choose to just celebrate the era, my experience, and the good things that it's brought me as like just an absolute gift to my life, And again, I worked really hard on it. So did my band, all my bands. For this band, Something Corporate, that got popular. I got another record deal actually with William Tell, who's in Something Corporate, after that didn't sell many records.
Yeah.
And then other bands, multiple bands after that you've never heard of. But like that whole thing sparked like such a positive thing in my life. So I definitely try to focus there.
With hindsight being 2020, what would be like one thing you would want to tell a young musician or somebody wanting to get into that arena? Like the advice you say, like, hey, this is my advice. Like I have things I would tell a young hairdresser.
Sure. Be objective about the music you're making. Be objective about what it means, not just to you, but to other people. Like if you're trying to be a musician for a living, right? Mm-hmm. Making self-indulgent music is not always going to get you there. There's a real line between, this doesn't need to be a compromise of your art. The art is making it good and getting it out to people so they love it. Be objective to the cause, which if the cause is being a musician, and that's what you want to do with your life, financially, whatever, ask yourself what it's going to take to get there.
Okay.
Don't just self-indulge, say, is this song too long for someone to care about it? And if you still want to make it, great, but go in eyes wide open about what you're doing as it relates to them, not just you, and what it's going to take to get you to those points.
I think that applies to any creative endeavor.
Totally.
So I think that's actually a good note to end on.
Great.
Cool. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, this has been great.
Awesome. Adios.
Thank you.